Welcome. Thank you for joining me. And it's good to be back doing a formal Sutherland Report interview with a dear friend who I'll just bring on in a minute. Some of you may be aware, maybe not. I have been in America for a number of weeks. And just to be upfront and just say that I'm producing a documentary on the transgender issue with a dear friend of mine, Melanie Kreitz-Backett, out there in the United States. We have a website, imageunshaken.com, imageunshaken.com. Yes, Mark is tackling another controversial subject. Never too far from that, but we believe in things, we have beliefs, so we are having some interesting conversations, having interviewed 24 people. So I think it's going to be episodic. So the challenge is to get this edited and get it out there and begin to do that. So if you want to help us, please go to imageunshaken.com. That would be very much appreciated. Anyway, enough of that. I'm going to bring on my dear friend Matty Zwaig from Israel, hence the Israeli flag in the corner, hence the Israeli flag in the beginning, hence the introduction, because Matty, of course, has a military background, having served in the IDF, but he also is a retired diplomat. And the last time we caught up, he was running to the bomb shelter. Matty, good to see you, my friend. How are you? I'm just recapping because the last time we spoke, you said, I've got to go. And then you had your camera on and you were running down the stairs to your bomb shelter, which was a very surreal experience for me to watch, but you haven't been the only one, sadly. But how are you, my friend?
Well, I'm very honored that you want to talk to me again, and I think that this is a strange period because it's like nothing really changed, but everything has changed. And now we are again in a period that the Americans decided to strike again on Iran, but this time we are not running to shelters because maybe Iranians are aware of something that can happen or should happen if they are going to attack also us and not only the United States or all their neighbors around. And this is a very strange thing because all this MOU I've been saying from the time that you were, interviewing me, that even if it's going to be a ceasefire, it's not going to hold. And it's not going to hold because of the inner and essential way that this regime exists. They exist only threatening, repressing their own people, or giving weapons and training other proxies to help them to survive. Because this is about that. They survive, they try to conquer others, they try to threaten others, they think in the future is going to be a Shiite caliphate or something, that they are going to be the masters, and all the other countries are just going to work for them or something. So it's an inner feeling that they have that it's just like they cannot touch reality. They don't touch reality. They used this ceasefire because the MOU is nothing more than an expanded ceasefire, or try to be. Not for 48 hours or for 1 week, but for 2 months. And then we will talk. And in the meanwhile, they feel they won the war. They sunk all the American ships and not the other way. And they can just open and close the Strait of Hormuz as they want, and even have a toll, have fees with all the vessels that are passing there, or saying who can pass or who cannot pass, when the international law said that except for the Canal of Panama and the Canal of Suez, all the maritime routes in the world are open and free to everybody. Most people. You don't have to study books and books to understand that. But they think differently. They think they won a war and everybody now is honoring us. I mean, this kind of mentality you will never understand, but they don't have to understand it, and nobody has to understand it. You have to defeat this, because this is not a way that civilization can continue and develop in a way that some countries like Iran feel they have the the right to have atomic weapons in order to throw to the others. You know, I always say to the people, look at North Korea. Nobody's messing with North Korea. Nobody talks about North Korea. Nobody cares about that. 75% of the people is starving there in order to have missiles and atomic bombs. And why is that? Very simple, because they have atomic weapons. Think about Iran with atomic weapons. This is exactly that. It's North Korea on speed. They are not going to threaten only, they are going to use it in order to expand themselves on the supremacist ideology, because they have the supremacist ideology that the Shiite kind of Islam is the best and they must rule. I mean, it's not just for propaganda. They are really doing that. I mean, now you are in a ceasefire, right? Completely defeated. You lost about $120 billion, which is a sum that I cannot even think. How do you write and how many zeros? Your people is starving, your industries are destroyed, and they are paying 3 times more than the average Iranian to new fighters to go to Lebanon. They give them $1,000 in order to go there and try to rebuild Hezbollah and to kill Israelis. What are we talking about? This world is upside down, and the other people that they are partners to this, not to this ideology, but to this regime, are part of the problem, not part of the solution. Like the United Nations, like part of Europe, we are inside this problem, and they say we are not going further with the MOU until Israel withdraw from Lebanon.
Yeah.
Israel never intended and said that to withdraw even 1 millimeter, from Hezbollah. They can withdraw from the sovereign Lebanese rulers if they are really going and to intend to rule in some place instead of Hezbollah, but not in any other occasion. Everybody knew that, and they continue to talk about the MOU like a kind of gift that the children receive in I don't know, in some holiday. How can you understand that?
Matty, there are so many different fronts to discuss, and I'm going to suggest to you, I think this would be part 1, and then we can do some other shows, part 2, 3, because I think it's so important to drill down on the number of fronts, and you quite rightly raise the situation in Lebanon. And as we speak, I understand there has been the Lebanese government has been at the American embassy in Rome for conversations, as you and I are speaking. But what's been happening in northern Israel, and I was up there with dear mutual friends last November. The fact that, just remind ourselves that 80,000 Israeli citizens had to withdraw from that area because of after the 7th of October, and also the rockets coming in, and then they were put up in hotels for many months. So I'll come to that in a minute, but I had the privilege a number of months ago, and I need to do it again, to sit down with Brigadier General Yossi Cooper-Vasser, and Yossi had informed me that he, under the Obama administration, in regard to the JPOA, the Israeli government was saying, why are you negotiating with these people? Because you're not going to get anywhere. And of course, we remember, this is my red line, says Obama. So we're not surprised. and we're not surprised, are we? And this is what you're saying, which you cannot, because for the Iranians, winning is lasting, isn't it? What they wish to do is to, in the temporal sense, is to outlast President Trump's administration. That's what they wish to do, or to outlast any bombing campaign against them. Matty, before I hand back, let's just remind ourselves the awful atrocities that they committed in January, if I got my dates right, the 7th and the 9th of January, where they were killing anywhere between, and these are estimated between 40, 50,000, maybe up to 80,000 of their own citizens on the street. And then also bringing in outside forces to do that as well, to reinforce just the appalling regime and how they actually treat their people on the ground. So we're bearing all this in mind, Matty, to say what is, from your opinion, and I just reiterate, the last time we had a conversation, you know, and you're saying, I've got to go, I'm going to have to leave my coffee, I'm going to have to leave my meal, which I just got out, and I'm going to have to run down the stairs, and then we carried on an interview, and it's very, very surreal. That's happened a couple of times for me, talking to dear friends in Israel. Very, very surreal. Matty, what is the mood in Israel? And you, as you say, Iran hasn't fired any rockets or anything in your direction. The Prime Minister Netanyahu has warned that if Iran do anything, there will be, you will understandably retaliate. But what is the mood, considering when we've seen apartment blocks, you know, rockets sadly killing people, rockets landing everywhere, loads of miracles, hallelujah, sadly people dying, but the disruption to Israeli life. What is the mood over there at the moment, my friend?
Well, we started to say that we are in a really strange period of our life, because it's like nothing changed and everything changed.
Yeah.
And also, in the same way, in Israel, it's like nothing changed, but everything has changed. Even that, from an economical point of view, people started to work the next day of the ceasefire like it was no war. People just, well, maybe not in one day, but in 2 days, 2.5 days, then you have all this terrible traffic in the mornings again, to and from Tel Aviv and all the central areas. This is really terrible in Israel. It's like, you know, where some years ago, I used to have it all in the rush hours in the morning and after 5 to 6, 7. Today, you can get stuck in any place in Israel at 10, 11 in the night too. So this is really crazy, but this also shows you the dynamics. You go, I live like 18 kilometers from south of Tel Aviv, and I go to work every day to Tel Aviv. And also I've been in the north where my daughter lives, and a lot of places in the Galilee. Every place you go, construction, 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 like there is no tomorrow. And this is because of all the motor of all this is the people that continue to have jobs in the high-tech industries. And the high-tech industries, in many cases, they are, you know, about medicine and things like that. But today, in most of the cases, they are connected also with the weapons industries. There are about 400 industries connected to drones. Which is like, you know, some years ago you have 2, 3, 4. Now you have 400. They are all connected some way to the drone, because now the biggest word in the world for everything, for everybody, is drones. Drones to defend, drones to attack, drones to carry things, drones for everything, and different types of. And this is really crazy. And then you see like a boom in economy in Israel and in the bourse, but it's not real, because you have so many people wounded about everything that has been happening the last 3 years, not only the last 2, 3 months. And it's like people is emotionally and psychologically waiting. What are they waiting for? I don't know. Maybe for Trump to finish with Iran, and maybe for the elections in Israel that they are going to change a lot of things. Everybody thinks this time, for good and bad. I'm not talking about what is good and what is bad, but things are going to change. And also, there are many people that say, okay, I already understand. We will live always under some kind of military siege or psychological siege or economical siege from the world that in big parts or in it depends sometimes of governments changing, but in general, we are disappointed. We have nothing to wait for. If I just don't want to live in Israel, I'm just going to work in Italy or in Spain or in the States and I'm going to open my laptop, I'm going to work from there, and this is going to be my life. Leave me alone. There's many people thinking like that. Young people also. But of course, everything changed when you win and you lose the wars also. I mean, if it's going to be a period of tranquility, not for 2 months like now, but for 2 years, 3 years, I know the Israeli spirits. Most of the people that left are going to come back. And also the people that left, they never really left. I mean, they are just sitting in another place because today, many young people, especially, they can sit in Thailand in the beach and work for their company. Today, I've been in an incredible big company, an Israeli company that was like from the first that opened all the gates for the industry of high tech in Israel, which was Indigo, and they were bought by HP, so now they are called HP Indigo. They have incredible offices, and you see all these people talking with their very proud about what we have here and that we are enlarging our offices. They are building, they have 4 buildings, they are building another 2. This is very close to my house, like 3 kilometers. And they do all these giant printers, the most modern printers in the world. Like, if you have to do the labels for Coca-Cola, they have to do millions and put it in the bottle. They do all these printers. They are number 1 in the world. And every machine costs between $2 and $3 million. And they only print. And people is really, they are having confidence that they always can have initiative, they can always have work, they can always can move by psychologically. A lot of people also is leaving. About 160,000 left the country in the last 2 years, but it's not millions and it's not desperation. It's just a period of uncertainty. We used to talk also about a period of uncertainty also in faith, because many people, they can lose their faith. I'm not talking about only believing in God, but why I'm living like this. I am really destined to live in this way forever. This is something that many young people, especially, they ask themselves. But this bond that is very strong between the people in Israel is still very strong, despite all the rifts inside, the political rifts, and the rift between the ultra-Orthodox and Orthodox and not very religious people, that they think that something must change. So this is the mood in Israel, very positive from the economical point of view, and not very positive from the psychological point of view, that we live with a very high sense of uncertainty.
Matty, thank you for summing that up in a beautiful, honest way. And I take my hat off to you and the citizens of Israel, to the Israeli people, because from what has gone on since the 7th of October, and of course previous history, which is so much to talk about, but if we take that from the 7th of October and your mental fortitude, We do not. I passionately believe. Sadly, maybe passionately is the wrong word to use, but I just don't think we have that in the UK. The mental fortitude for what could be coming down the pipe to cope. I really don't. Um, but it's something that is inspiring. Um,
Thank you.
and I'm fully aware of, you're absolutely right to point it out. Some people call it PTSD, other things that have gone on, the awful events that people have witnessed. There was, I think, maybe just recently, in a very short period of time, there was an event where I think it was over here, where a young man was just sharing the fact that on the 7th of October that he had saved 2,000 people's lives. That might have been linked with Nova Festival, I'm not quite sure. And in the audience was another young person that didn't realize that it was this young man that saved his life. Very, 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 very moving. Very moving. There wasn't a dry eye in the house. And I suppose when we hear of these things, this is what gives us our faith, our belief in God. And then for others that may not believe it, it reassures them about their faith in humanity. And having been to Kibbutz near Oz and being down there and stood outside the Bibas family home, I say that respectfully. It's not like going down doing voyeurism is extremely disturbing if you are not in the country, if you're visiting to be there, and especially when, quite understandably, in your social media feeds, that regularly comes up, which is totally and utterly understandable. And we just remember how those young children and the mother were treated, and let alone the father sadly losing his wife and the children. And all you've been through. And I'll just say this in one recap. April 2024, when the Iranians launched, I think, the biggest ballistic missile cluster in sort of war recorded history, at you, a country that's the size of New Jersey, the country that's the size of Wales over here in the UK. That's why I say I don't think we have got the mental fortitude. You shared with me a very, very interesting video yesterday or the other day, where it was going on about Russia and Russian subs. We won't totally go down that line, but what was interesting when you shared it was in Spanish. You said translate this to English. Yeah, a really, very, very interesting, and in some ways not surprising. So there's so many things that are going on in the background, Matty. And I think if people wish to pray for Israel and pray for the Israeli Jewish people, then this whole thing of mentally, how do you cope? How do you cope? How do you cope? The wearing down that has gone on. But when I've been over there twice last year, I'm in admiration. I am honestly in admiration of how people get on with life. It's incredibly inspiring.
Thank you very much. I wanted to tell you, sorry for disturbing that.
Don't worry.
It's always a question of perspective, because in the past, many times I said I'm trying to take, and I was giving lectures about Israel, and people sometimes they told me, especially in other countries, what is this Israel? Is it first world? It's second? It's third world? What kind of country is this? And I say, yeah, of course, Israel is first world, it's second world, and it's third, and it's fourth. You have everything in Israel. You have an incredible skyscrapers with all the best companies in Beersheba, and 2 kilometers from there, you have the tents of the Bedouins. that they look like they are poor, but they have, besides the tents, incredible Mercedes Benz and the best. I don't know, some of them today. I saw a Ferrari the other time. So you have everything there, and also the perspective of understanding that is also a question of culture development for every different part of the society. Because in the past, I always look for benchmarking. I look at Switzerland in the way they behave, and I also look at the UK in many things, because when I studied UK, I was amazed by a lot of things that were organized. Especially, well, I was in a very nice area, but uh, in the northwest. So it was really very special, and I saw people that, despite being wealthy, they live like other people in the same kind of stone uh, houses, cut in the same way, with houses that these stones were cut 400 years ago, and they did all these houses. And also the wealthy and the less wealthy, they live in the same way, because you have a way of life. And this is what was the distinction in many places in Europe, that they had a way of life. They have a development of their civilization. And today, also in Israel, is becoming, even that this is a young country, a country with a way of life. People always go forward. They try, on one side, they are very individualistic, and from the other side, they have a bond that they help each other. And you understand that you need to understand that you cannot lose even one war, because the Arabs can lose wars and they continue surviving. Israel will lose one war and we won't survive.
Yeah, yeah,
And then you so it's very good to blend this benchmarking for good things that they saw in Europe with things that are happening in Israel, and they make a very wealthy society. For instance, today I told you I was in a company for question connected to the business I am working with, and the person in charge of all the marketing development of this giant corporation was a religious woman with several children, that she's, like the poster of the corporate business woman in the States. But she's. So the main things that you have basic values that make people go together in all these values, and understand that we must be together in order for not to disintegrate as a country. And what I talk to you about this from Europe is because I have a big admiration also from the UK and from Scandinavia that I knew quite a lot, in Switzerland, many places that gave me a lot of ideas how I what do I have to aspire for my own country. And I see that these things are changing in Europe, and makes me very sad. We talk about that because it's also about order, it's also about cleanliness, it's also about the way that they are taking care of infrastructures, many things that they are changing. And you cannot blame only the immigration, but this mentality of multiculturalism that brought everybody to say, we respect you in everything you want to do and think, and it doesn't matter what I think. And this is not true. It matters what you think. How are you organized as a civilization in order not to broke yourself? That's what is the parallelism I was trying to do when I told you about Europe too. And so if Israel could change, I think also UK or other countries can change again, but they have to organize themselves. Because I'm listening from you that you are quite disappointed for many things that are happening in UK or maybe in Europe. And I think there is hope for everybody if the people put the accent on the basic values that are important. The democracy, human rights are very good, but also faith and also moral values. This is very important to go forward as a civilization and survive.
I couldn't agree with you more, and that's why um, we've seen it. We've seen it in podcasts. We've seen it with comments that people that have made online when they have been like young people have been caught up in the from the river to the sea cult at their universities, and then suddenly they've grown up and went, hold on a minute, I don't want blue, pink, or green hair anymore, and I want my natural hair color. And then they've slowly gone, hold on a minute, I need to look at Israel, I need to look at the history. And then they've changed their mind and said, I was wrong. And all credit to those people. I'm sorry they believed that in the first place, but all credit to those people. And it's like, go to Israel, see it with your own eyes, because you cannot beat that. And one of the things that always amazes me, it's like when you go to Israel, the Israeli flag is everywhere. It's a bit like you go to America, the American flag is everywhere. The fact that we're having a discussion over the fact that there is this thing called the World Cup on, I'll leave it like that. Not that I paid much attention to it, even though I've been out in America and it was played. That's where it is. But the fact that we've got councils going around taking flags down. Oh, we can't have the George Cross here. We can't have this. We can't have that. Absolutely attacking our culture, who we are as a nation, and our history. And I hear you. There are so many lessons to learn from Israel, where I think you are extremely proud of your nation, and of course, from the establishment of on May the 15th, 1948, all the previous history. We know that this is what's really, really important. Some people say, oh, you're a young country. Well, you may be 77 years old, but you're 3,500. You're 77 years young, but you're 3,500 plus years old.
Sorry, it's 3,700.
3,700. Thank you. But this is, and it's the history. We've constantly been talking about that. We've been trying to educate people. And it is deeply frustrating. And at times you've got to walk away from social media because you're just going, I'm not getting through here. But I make no apologies for this, because I know it's a spiritual battle, my friend. This is a spiritual battle. And that's how I see it. I think the whole of world history revolves around your nation and will continue from a biblical point of view. I'll just say that. But I sit here, Matty, very grateful that you and I can have these conversations, and I am, as I say, I am in admiration of having had some very, very interesting conversations in Israel with some amazing people. And there are times when you just think, how would we in the UK respond to this? How would we cope if suddenly we gave complete autonomy to Wales and Wales was independent, and then it thought, well, we just want to fire Exocet rockets or whatever from Wales into England every day, since, in the case of Gaza, since 2007. How would we react to that? And the fact that, I'll just give you a little pointer. The excuse of a Home Secretary, a woman called Yvette Cooper, was on social media. I think I shared it with you, whether that in the last couple of days, going, I mean, I can't stand the woman's voice for a start, but going, we are going to give 10 million pounds to Gaza. Well, you may as well just, there you go, straight into Hamas hands. You may as well just put it down the ATM pipeline, because that's where it's going to go. Then we've also had the news, haven't we, Matty, that suddenly they've said, the UN have said, a lot of the aid that we were going into Gaza, Hamas took the trucks over. Well, we've all seen the videos of it 2 years ago, plus and well before that, they're taking all the aid there, giving it to their own Hamasniks, and then selling it to the people of Gaza, etc., at inflated prices. Oh, we've had that. When we've said this in the news, we were wrong, but we never apologise for it. All of this coming out, all of the fact that you, I, with other incredible people, we've been talking about these issues to the best of our ability over the last couple of years. And I sit here as someone who's profoundly embarrassed, if not, and furious with particularly this present excuse of a government and allowing to me, since the 7th of October, previous government and Conservative government, the
But I
marches that we
understand Starmer has a high sense of self awareness when he said that he's today, I think, or yesterday, he's going to leave England much better than he took it.
I think the second word is off, and the first word I won't repeat to that. It's an absolute rollocks. I mean, what a lying piece of I mean, he is a Fabian, which is a socialist that always leads to communism. They've nearly got what they wanted over here by completely invading all the institutions of this country, plus setting up education to become the socialist communist mind virus. I'm not into that whatsoever. The man, and just for the record, sorry, you've started me now. I just need to say this: the next idiot that's coming in, Andy Burnham. The first comment that he made in regard to foreign policy was saying, well, as the Labour Party, we needed to do better in regard to Israel. Well, that wasn't pro-Israel, was what he's saying. It's saying in regard to the Palestinians and Gaza, etc. Understand, it doesn't seem to know history, doesn't read anything, nothing in regard to modern politics, maybe even from the 7th of October, for all I know. So he is coming in. And just for the record, as we speak, government, the Parliament is going into recess for the summer. We've got this new leader coming in that no one's elected, except the fact that there's over 400 Labour Party members in Parliament, and they can't even choose a new leader amongst them. Well, that sums it up, doesn't it, really, Matty? These are the things you need to know. So he won't be held to account until September at all. So we didn't vote for him. They've got rid of Starmer. They're bringing in someone else who's going to be even more left wing. They're going to be left wing on steroids. This is what we're facing, Matty.
But when I send you what I send you about the developments between Russia, not only Ukraine, but with all the neighbors in the Baltic states, Poland, etc., Finland, and all this understanding that something is probably going to happen if they don't change the way they see their own security, and they are investing heavily there. And then I listened today that England is in the lowest point of the quantity of soldiers they have in the last 200 years.
Yes.
70,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is really surprising. Of course, it's not Starmer's fault, but he also said he's going to raise the spending in security things because now that he listened to Trump, he understands that we Europeans must defend ourselves. But it's after the Brexit, so maybe it's a good excuse to go back to Europe. But I am really concerned, because it doesn't matter what government do you have. It's like, not a parallelism, but with Israel. But I say in Israel, you must take care of security. It doesn't matter what government do you have. I mean, if they are going to change Netanyahu with some other of the other guys, it doesn't matter. They must take care in all fronts of security. And Europe should do the same. It doesn't matter if you're left or right. I mean, you have some things that you cannot compromise because you know what is going to happen in the future.
Well, let's answer some of that, my friend. The bottom line is that the British people after successive elections since 2000, the early 2000s, have asked, and before that, have asked for control in regard to immigration. When Blair came in 1997, in a very short while, he said we're going to basically rub the right in regard to multiculturalism, and then the immigration then ensued. But also, let's not forget, under Boris Johnson, 1 million people came into this country. They're not conservative. They're Tories, they're establishment. They seem to be filling their boots then as much as they can, like this lot are doing exactly the same. And you're absolutely right. And the number is all very well putting fencing around Westminster to then for the security of the members of Parliament. What would be better is to put that security all the way round this country, and particularly at Dover, where a load of plastic boats are bringing illegal immigrants into this country. And when we are bankrupt and we need to be cutting welfare and people that are illegally in this country, we need to take back. And no one wants to do that because of the left-wing ideology says we are going to use the Global Migration Compact, the mass movement of people. The Global Migration Compact, just for the record, Theresa May signed, a supposedly conservative. She signed that. Matty, in many ways, there's so much to unpack about British politics, and I know in your previous, when you were a diplomat, there'd be things that would be, I understand it, that would be said to you the way you then see it, but the huge changes that have gone on in this country, and that it's a bit like turning around and saying, oh, you are saying this about the Conservative Party, they must be conservatives. No, a lot of them will be extremely happy maybe on the Labour benches, if not the Liberal Democrats. And now after the massive election defeat, that maybe we're winning those out. Matty, there's so much to say on that, and you're absolutely right.
On the other side, also going back to this video that I passed to you, that I must explain to the public that it's something about everything that is going on from the Russian side and the way they are looking to the future with Europe and the Europeans. How are they going to cope with possible threatening thing that is not only about armies and it's not only about weapons. It's about throwing to Europe massive immigration, that it was really not only about money for some traffickers, but also some governments that were trying to do that in order to disrupt also Europe. And this is a fact. And also about all this mixed warfare of burning some places. Every time you see that some place burn, and this is because this is connected to communities of Ukrainians that they are helping, companies that are helping the war, etc., etc. And so there is a big threat that people are not coping with that because they say, no, but we are left, we are center left, we are center right. This is all stories, stupid things, because you have a counterintelligence in other countries, not only Russia, China and other powers, and Iran, that they are trying to undermine and to really disintegrate Europe, because it will be the best for them to see Europe disintegrated from I'm not talking about European Union, but about as a way of being, as a civilization that is going to change, to be better for themselves.
Because absolutely.
It's not everything about values. You have in Russia and other places a lot of values, conservative values, people that go to church and everything, but you have also kind of countries that they are trying to undermine the West because they believe they can threaten them in their way of life, which is a lot of corruption and you know all things that are around that. You know,
Well,
when you have,
it's a, absolutely, and there's a bit the defector from the KGB from Russia, Yuri Bezmenov, in around about 1984, in America, was warning America about this. Remember that we. It's like during the Second World War, Winston Churchill might have been running the war, but Clement Attlee, an arch socialist Fabian,
yeah,
was running the home front. And we have put up with socialism since this whole push since a minimum of 1885, if not you
immediately
could say,
use the election after the war.
yeah, yeah. So we're having, we need to look at the influences of this. And some of it is very, very uncomfortable because it is challenging the establishment view of what it then says to the average person in the street in this country. But that video, maybe I'll try and find the link and put it in. That video, what you're talking about is economic. I mean, Seymour Hersh, the very well-known American journalist, talking about the blowing up of Nord Stream 2, the pipeline, and all this, under the Biden going, well, maybe we need to have something that we can
It's worse
operate
than war.
remotely. Yeah,
It's worse than war, because if they could cut all the 99% of all communications under the seas, so you are going to disturb more the world than any war.
absolutely, because of what we're saying. This is we're saying this is economic warfare, and people have got to understand that. I mean, we have this net zero nonsense. We've got. Sorry, I do apologize, Matty. We're talking about other things, but I think it is so relevant. But we've got this net zero nonsense. It's all connected. We've got this net zero nonsense. We've even blown up power stations because of Ed Miliband's idiocy. And it's like, to offset our carbon emissions, we're just buy all this fuel in. We won't drill in the North Sea, which we need to do. And then suddenly Ed Miliband changes his mind because maybe he could become chancellor. God forbid. But that may be happening. However, I'll just quickly say this to you. There was a survey done on where's the best place to put solar panels. I believe that is in Namibia. But we seem to have a load of solar panels, even though Namibia is number one and we are the second from the bottom. And we've got all these solar panels over wonderful arable land because we're just run by idiots. But the previous government were all into the net. In fact, Cameron under Hilton, his then advisor, who's going to run for governor of California, they were all pushing all the climate change nonsense. Let's go and hug a polar bear. We have to understand this, of where we've come from, to know why we're in this mess and where we're going, because you're absolutely right. Our enemies would love the fact that we don't have any energy to make our own steel, really, or any industry to actually fight back. That's why within Israel, there's been the whole debate when they say, look at the amount of money we get from America and then from the military industrial complex. But actually, it's all the arms that are made in America that are then shipped to you. But there's all this discussion.
This is another discussion because you know that even Netanyahu say to some, I don't know, to Lindsey Graham, he say, we are in a stage that we think it's better for us not to receive help from America.
Absolutely.
And he say, no, please continue, because you need it, you will need it in the future. And we are not talking about independence, sovereignty. These are empty words when you are not real doing something about them. It's like our friends, the Indian journalists, they are asking me all the time, so why you are breaking the sovereignty of Lebanon? I say, sorry, what connection is the word sovereignty is doing in this conversation when they are throwing on my head missiles every day? I mean, do you think, no, I'm not going to break their sovereignty, so I'm not going to counterattack or to diminish their military capabilities? Okay. Anyway, so all the word sovereignty today is very volatile because capitals are moving very fast. And this is a very heavy thing. I think one of the things that must be done, I think, in the next 2 years of Trump, if he has sufficient political capabilities to do so, because we don't know what will happen, is maybe to be stronger with Europe, but to fix in some way and not to make them, left themselves to what is going to happen with all the hackers from China and Russia will take over Europe. Because it's happening. And it's happening because of political means and because of economical means and things that they are the first interested in seeing Europe disintegrated in something that is not now, even with all their failures. And this is
Absolutely.
a big
And
problem.
you earlier, just a few minutes ago, I just want to mention this because, when Bataillon wrote a book about uh, what was happening in Europe, Dimitrov, but she also was raising this whole thing of pan-Arabism. And we
Yeah,
need to go back to remind ourselves of 1973, why suddenly it's like, well, we need cheap oil. This is where it's going to come from in regard to Europe. But all of this has to be thrown into the mix in regard to why we are where we are over long term, and your diplomatic background has so much to say in that, in particular when you're talking about Russia, because you've been there, you spent a lot of time there. You
yes, I was in for physically more than 7 years
Yeah.
in Russia
Mm,
and almost 3 years in Belarus,
mm,
which there are different countries, but not going into it now.
mm,
And I can tell you, they have it's like a kind of, you know, I don't know, some psychological misunderstanding here because they are they have a lot of potential.
mm,
They are incredible countries, but they are always with a very high complex of inferiority about the West that they hate. I mean, they hate the West, but they have big complex of inferiority. I mean, they are such a huge country, the biggest in the world, even after the dismantling of the USSR. And they think they must be against them, but not only against, it's because they cannot stand that the people is free, even with all the problems, because they understand freedom in a different way. They think freedom is to have one leader strong that controls everything, everybody, and if his wrongdoings with all his elites around, taking all the money from everything, is his right to make this country works and to make it go further. They I mean, and this is the same for Australia, New Zealand, the United States, Canada, uh, any democracy. I mean, they are threatening them
mm,
because they think, and they are quite right in their case, because I've been inside, that they are going to dismemberate and to disintegrate if it's going to be full freedom inside Russia or Belarus, and they are not going to be how they have been in the past, and they are going to fall apart in several parts, and it's like the world is going to conquer us. We are not going to be the same. They really believe in that. I understand where it comes from because it's a real threat. It almost happened in the 90s. Putin pulled all together these people in a very hard way, yes, but people like the word stability more than they like the word democracy or human rights. This is true. And from the other side, you say, okay, this is good for them. I wouldn't like to live in that way. It's like when I was in China, I understood that the word democracy or human rights are not so important when you take out like about 600 million people from poverty in 20 years. It's like it's
Absolutely.
more important. And
Yes.
so the world must understand that there are different kind of regimes, but if you believe in your way of life in Europe, in the States, in everything, in every place, you must be certain in what you believe and be strong about those values.
Well, Matty, we're running out of time, but I was just going to say, on that note, that's the problem with the UK. It's a constant undermine. I think that the silent majority definitely know who we are, but we're told that if we make some criticism along these lines, or even talk about things like multiculturalism, then you're a racist, fascist, bigot, etc. I mean, none of those tropes and none of those words mean anything anymore, as far as I'm concerned, in regard to the insult. Matty, I just want to thank you for your time, and we are going to do this again. And I'm very grateful for your traveling experience and your insight, because it's really, I mean, that's the wonderful thing about travel, that it brings that. But also when you've had the privilege to work in these situations in these countries, because your perspective, I think, is really unique. And we remember, when the wall came down in Germany and in Eastern Europe, and the spin and the ramifications of that. So much to talk about in regard to Gorbachev and Yeltsin and all the rest. I'm going to play us out. Please stay with me, and I'll say goodbye to you the other side. But Matty, we are going to do this again. I sense a series personally. That'd be great. All right, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you. I am very honored to be here.
Bless you.
Bless you.